From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Good afternoon and welcome to your MTN Noon News for this Thursday. I'm Hailey Monaco. 80,000 Montanans recently breathed a sigh of relief with the return of SNAP benefits. Now, the impact of the government shutdown is still being felt by families and local grocery stores, but questions still linger, including what the recertification process will look like for those that rely on benefits. Our Charlie Kleps reports.
I was at this Billings Albertsons on Monday when the cashier told me that they've seen an uptick in customers since the SNAP benefits were reinstated.
How you doing?
And we're hearing the same from other local grocery stores as well.
We saw an impact on our sales of the staple goods.
Over in Warden, Project Merc owner Michael Ryder says when SNAP went away, he saw significant changes in their day-to-day.
Fresh meats, fresh produce, milk, cheese, those kind of items, sales were down in that area.
Down by 15% of the customers. Ryder says he actually changed how much he was buying for the store.
We had to back off on fresh produce, fresh meat, fresh milk, just because there is that impact.
An impact that felt some relief last week when the government shutdown officially ended.
We're starting to see, our normal customers flow through the store again.
I am still playing catch up because pretty much I had to find what bills I could pay bare minimum on and still, make sure that my daughter ate.
But Billings resident Stacy Winkle says that her family is still recovering from the weeks without SNAP.
The government's opened back up, SNAP's returned, and I still have bare shelves.
Bare shelves and new questions, especially about the potential changes for those recertifying for SNAP, a process which happens twice a year.
It is challenging, and I'm kind of stressing about it.
Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins hinted at making that process more strict in an effort, she says, to cut back on waste. And that's why Montanans will be receiving this letter, which states that if the proper forms and interview aren't completed by December 15th, it could mean the loss of SNAP.
It's very hard, and it's really embarrassing.
And possibly a lot more paperwork for Winkle, who says regardless, she'll be grateful for whatever she gets.
Even if the reapplication causes a lower benefit, I'm grateful to have something. I mean, everything helps right now.
In Billings, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
The rulings have been made, including one surrounding a new gas plant in Yellowstone County. After 2 days of debate, Montana's top utility regulators delivered their decision on Northwestern Energy's proposals for increased electric and gas rates. In the end, it proved to be a victory for both taxpayers and energy companies. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian breaks down what they said yes to and what they said no to.
After 16 months of work on Northwestern Energy's latest rate case, the Montana Public Service Commission took action Wednesday morning on new proposed electrical and gas rates. In the end, the commission disallowed some, but not all, of the company's contested proposals for rate increases.
This is the Northwestern Energy gas and electric rate case.
The commission approved parts of the new rate system Tuesday, but they saved the pieces that were most at issue until Wednesday. Earlier this year, Northwestern reached a settlement with other parties in the rate case. They agreed on a partial increase in electrical and gas rates, but they left the commissioners to decide other issues. The most notable being how much money Northwestern should be able to collect from ratepayers to cover the costs of the Yellowstone County Generating Station, a natural gas-powered electric plant near Laurel. PSC staff recommended that commissioners lower those allowed costs, saying Northwestern hadn't provided enough evidence to show building the plant was the best option.
Staff concludes that there were significant deficiencies in the planning and procurement processes that raised serious doubts about whether Northwestern minimized total costs and risks for customers over the long term.
Commissioners agreed to most of the recommendations, but decided to let Northwestern claim several million more dollars to account for the costs of stopping work while an environmental lawsuit held up their permit.
Trying to get a project of this size, if you can imagine, getting contractors lined back up again and started back up again, fired back up again, it is no small matter.
Of course, the PSC is going to have a lot more to say about Northwestern Energy in the coming months. The commission is going to need to weigh in on the company's proposed merger with Black Hills Corporation. But so far, that issue hasn't been officially scheduled to be heard in front of the PSC. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Here's a live look over towards Missoula, where we're finally starting to see a break in the clouds, especially since you had some problems with fog earlier in the day. In fact, that was a big story all across the region. Temperature now sitting at 43 degrees, but the winds are calm. And, well, okay, that was supposed to be a shot over towards Bozeman. But there, the clouds were hanging around as well, sitting at a much chillier 35 degrees. Let's take a look at where the temperatures were first thing this morning. Along the High Line, only in the teens from Cutbank all the way over towards Williston. Teens and 20s elsewhere, except for a few 30s that were in the mix. A chilly start. Temperatures recovering for the afternoon, and in fact, it looks pretty pleasant into the early part of the weekend. But by the end of the weekend, I'll tell you about that coming up.
A new partnership between the University of Montana and Providence hopes to increase access to healthcare in rural communities, bettering outcomes and saving lives. Officials at both say the latest healthcare advancements aren't just for hubs or major cities. Patient data can now pinpoint the type of care needed in smaller towns. Using Providence's data, UM can research ways to better help people in rural areas receive support or treatment. They're calling the collaboration Resolve. Treatments can be developed for those who need it through telehealth services and soon potentially mobile clinics and medicine through the mail.
Is the idea that rural communities are always downstream of innovation and just waiting for something to be developed that can help them, and instead engages those communities as activators of innovation and partners in innovation, which is a big shift in how healthcare has historically operated, and I think a very important one.
Resolve has multiple projects underway already with hopes to place rural communities at the forefront of healthcare. It was training day up on the mountain in Red Lodge yesterday. Rescue teams from the mountain, Red Lodge Fire, and the hospital all came together for emergency response training. The group simulated a bus crash and what that response would look like for all involved. For the first responders, it's a great opportunity to prepare for the worst before disaster strikes.
See mass casualty incidents every day, and so it's super important to practice and ensure we have a process that works for us and our agency and that works together.
The mountain is tentatively scheduled to open next Friday, like it does every year. Vandalism is becoming a concern at the historic hospital at the Heart Mountain National Landmark, with 4 separate incidents in the last 2 months. The most recent case came last week when intruders broke a window and damaged historic doors. For those that work daily to preserve these pieces of history, it's a sad trend that they want to see stopped. And MTN's Isabel Spartz traveled to the mountain and has the details.
In the rural land in between Powell and Cody sits a history some might not even know exists. Heart Mountain was a World War II incarceration camp that unjustly held 14,000 Japanese Americans.
We had just under 200 deaths at the camp that would have, involved the hospital complex, and over 500 births.
But Director of Operations for the Wyoming Foundation, Logan Christie, says these 3 remaining hospital structures have seen a string of vandalism in under 2 months.
This September 29th of this year was the first time we actually noticed doors ripped off or windows broken out.
As well as graffiti, trash, and a kicked-in wall. It's not happened just once, but now 4 times, with the most recent striking just last week. Due to the frequency, all they can do is patch, but it still has a cost.
Fixing with any integrity any of the damage, it'll be thousands.
Christie says the Park County Sheriff's Office have been investigating, and cameras have now been installed. But weather and time has already taken a toll on these structures, and they're filled with asbestos.
I almost can't put into words the level of frustration of finding something that holds such importance being desecrated to a point.
The hospital buildings behind me are just up the road from the museum, but the foundation doesn't own this land, which adds an additional challenge to an already frustrating situation.
Every time something gets ripped down, it destroys more of the original fabric. We have less to hook to.
They lease the land from the Bureau of Reclamation. A transfer would allow for proper preservation.
The federal bureaucracy that's at play has prevented it for roughly the last 8 or 10 years.
Once this happens, it would put more measures in place to prevent this from happening again at the historical site.
I'm hoping that the individuals who are doing this, who are being the vandals, realize that they're not just abandoned buildings. Hopefully that when that realization happens, it's a eye-opening experience for them.
In Park County, Wyoming, Isabel Sparts, MTN News.